Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you want to improve your English naturally, you're in the right place. In this 1-hour lesson, you'll listen to real-life English conversations that native speakers use every day. Each conversation is slow, clear, and easy to understand. After every dialogue, we'll explain important vocabulary, useful phrases, and pronunciation tips. So relax, grab a notebook, and let's improve your English together. Let's begin.
There's this incredibly universal phenomenon that happens to almost everyone who travels.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't even matter if you're, a seasoned globetrotter or if it's literally your very first trip abroad. You step up to a customs officer or you finally get to the front of the line at the hotel check-in desk, your heart starts racing, and suddenly total catastrophic travel brain freeze.
Right, you just completely forget every single word of English you know.
Exactly. Trying to find the right words when you're severely jet-lagged, it's basically like trying to run a marathon while carrying a 50-pound suitcase. Your mental battery it's totally drained.
It's a complete cognitive wipeout, really. I mean, the adrenaline spikes, your mind goes blank, and even the simplest vocabulary just evaporates.
You're sweating, you're tired, and all you want is for this one interaction to just be over so you can go sleep. Which is why today in this deep dive, we aren't just giving you a random list of vocabulary words.
No, we're doing something much more practical.
Right. We're extracting the exact, natural scripts from a really comprehensive travel masterclass by the Mr. English channel. The mission here is to entirely eliminate that cognitive load, right?
Right.
We're going to show you how mastering just a few predictable dialogues can shift you from a panicked traveler into a completely confident explorer.
And that psychological shift is really what makes this source material so compelling. Because, travel anxiety isn't a language failure.
Wait, really? It feels like one in the moment.
I know, but it's actually a perfectly normal biological response to high-stakes, time-sensitive situations. You're out of your comfort zone, you're managing luggage and schedules, and often, you're dealing with a language barrier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So by preloading these standard scripts into your brain, you bypass the anxiety altogether. You don't have to think, you just have to deploy the phrase.
Wow, okay. Well, let's start at the absolute highest stress point of the entire journey, which is the airport gauntlet.
Right.
From the check-in desk to passport control. This is where the tension is just incredibly thick.
Oh, without a doubt. The stress peaks here because the required interactions are, well, they're incredibly rigid. You're navigating security protocols, not hospitality.
Right.
There's very little room for error, and the perceived stakes feel just monumental.
Yeah, and the source breaks this down perfectly, starting with the very first boss battle, the check-in desk.
Yeah.
The agent looks at you and asks that inevitable question, "May I have your passport and ticket, please?"
And when you're panicked, the instinct is to overcomplicate it.
Totally. You want to construct this grammatical masterpiece, something like, "Greetings, I present to you my travel documents for the journey." But the solution's wonderfully simple. You just say, "Here you go."
Here you go. Or even just, "Here's my passport." Radical simplicity is really the overarching rule of the airport.
Keep it simple.
Exactly. I mean, the check-in agent is processing hundreds of people a day. They're functioning on an assembly line of efficiency. And keeping your responses short aligns perfectly with their goal.
Right, and that simplicity applies to the luggage questions, too. They always ask, "Are you checking any bags today?" Meaning, are you putting your big suitcase under the airplane?
Right.
And if you just have your backpack, you tell them, "No, just this carry-on." And that word carry-on is so vital, right?
Yeah.
Because it immediately categorizes you in the agent's mind.
It signals that you understand the logistics. And, if you are checking a bag, the source offers a brilliant proactive script. Before you heave your massive suitcase onto the scale and just pray.
Oh, yeah, the scale anxiety is real.
It really is. So before you do that, you ask them, what is the weight limit for this bag?
Yes, because we have all seen that nightmare scenario. The bag is 2 pounds over, and the person is literally on the airport floor, unpacking their entire life.
Passing on 3 winter jackets.
Exactly, sweating profusely in front of a massive line of impatient people.
It's the worst. But asking about the weight limit up front prevents that entirely. It shows you're engaged and proactive, and, it also segues into another critical area of airport logistics, which is flight connections. The source highlights a specific pocket word that every traveler needs to internalize.
Oh, right, the pocket words. Which one is this?
It's the word layover.
Oh, that's such a good one. A layover being, When your airplane stops in a middle city for a few hours before you fly to your final destination. Like if you were to say, I have a 3-hour layover in Atlanta.
Exactly.
But exactly how does knowing that specific term help reduce the friction? I mean, couldn't you just say, I'm stopping there?
Well, native speakers use layover instead of saying, I'm stopping in the city and waiting. When you use the industry standard term, airline staff immediately understand your logistical state.
I see.
You aren't a resident, you aren't arriving to stay, you're in transit. It instantly clarifies your situation if you need directions to a connecting gate or if you're asking about a delayed flight.
So it's about speaking their operational language. That actually makes a lot of sense. And speaking of getting what you need from airline staff, the source brings up a fantastic point about polite requests.
Yes, this is crucial.
Like, say I'm a window seat person, but I get assigned a middle seat. I want an aisle seat so I don't have to climb over a stranger for 10 hours. The phrasing the source recommends relies on this sort of magic word, possible, as in, is it possible to get an aisle seat?
Notice the psychological difference there. You aren't saying, give me an aisle seat, or even, I want an aisle seat,
Right, it doesn't sound demanding.
by asking, is it possible? Yeah, you remove the directness of a command. You're framing the request as a query to the universe, basically. You're asking if the system in this moment allows for a change. It's completely non-confrontational, and it just softens the request beautifully.
It feels collaborative, you're inviting the agent to look at the computer and kind of solve a puzzle with you.
Precisely.
Okay, so you get the aisle seat, you survive the flight, you land. Now we face the ultimate test of nerves, immigration and passport control.
Oh, yeah. The transition from the airplane to the border agent is often where the most severe brain freeze actually occurs.
I feel it every single time. Stepping up to that immigration booth always makes me feel like some sort of secret agent in trouble.
It's universally intimidating.
It is. Even when I'm on a completely normal, boring vacation, I step up to the glass, and suddenly I feel incredibly guilty. The officer asks, "What is the purpose of your visit?" And my instinct is to just babble.
You want to over-explain.
Exactly. I want to tell them my whole life story, explain my childhood, show them pictures of my golden retriever, just to prove I'm a harmless person. Why do we have this overwhelming urge to over-explain ourselves?
It's actually a really fascinating anxiety response. When human beings feel intimidated by authority, our instinctive defense mechanism is to provide an overwhelming amount of information to prove our transparency.
Because we think more words makes us look more honest.
Exactly. We think volume equals honesty. But if we analyze the border officer's job, that strategy completely backfires.
Because they aren't looking to make a new best friend.
Far from it. They're operating under immense cognitive load themselves, seeing thousands of faces a day. They are scanning for predictable, recognizable patterns. They know exactly what a normal tourist sounds like.
So when you break out the life story,
Right. When you start giving a 10-minute monologue about your daily itinerary, you break their pattern. You introduce friction into a system that is entirely designed for speed.
wow. So by trying so hard to look innocent, you accidentally make yourself look highly suspicious.
Precisely. Which is why the source explicitly warns against the monologue. You must keep your answers incredibly short and predictable.
Keep it to the script.
Yes. For what is the purpose of your visit? The gold standard answers are simply on vacation or on business. That is all they need.
On vacation. Boom. Done. And then when they follow up with, how long will you be staying? Or you just give the time frame, right? Like for 2 weeks, you don't give them a breakdown of how you're spending 3 days in Rome and 4 days in Florence, just the total time.
Exactly. Satisfying their security parameters instantly is how you get through the line faster. And the source also provides a highly practical workaround for the third most common question, which is, where will you be staying?
Oh, yes. The visual aid tip. I love this one.
It's a lifesaver.
Instead of trying to print out some incredibly complicated foreign street name, spelling it out letter by letter while 100 people are just sighing heavily behind you, you just show them the hotel booking on your phone.
Providing instant, verifiable proof is exactly what the officer wants. It just cuts through the language barrier entirely.
So you show the phone, you get the stamp, you hear that satisfying thud of the passport, and you are officially through. You survived the high-stakes security scam, your adrenaline drops, but now you face a completely different social dynamic. You're leaving the airport gauntlet and entering the hotel sanctuary.
The environment shifts entirely here. You're no longer a potential security risk being processed. You are now a paying customer entering the hospitality sector.
Right.
However, the conversational tools you use here dictate the quality of your stay.
Okay, let's talk about the check-in desk, because I actually want to push back on something the source emphasizes here.
Sure. What is it?
The source says we should use a smooth phrase, like, I have a reservation under the name Silva. But honestly, if I've just flown for 14 hours, I'm exhausted, I'm dragging a heavy bag, and let's say my English isn't great, why can't I just walk up and say, give me room key, or I want room?
I see where you're going with this. Right. Because the desk agent works at a hotel. They know I need a key. Doesn't the basic intent get the job done? Why do we need to bother memorizing these polished, smooth upgrades?
It's a very fair question. And technically speaking, blunt phrasing will work for basic survival. If you point at your bag and grunt, you will eventually end up in a bed.
Right.
But smoothing it out does something far more important than just displaying proper grammar. It provides essential social lubrication.
Social lubrication. Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when you use a word like reservation, saying I have a reservation, you aren't just using a vocabulary word. You're establishing a business contract politely but firmly.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah, it asserts your status as an expected guest rather than just someone walking off the street demanding shelter. Hospitality workers are human beings. If you bark, give me room key, it can easily be perceived as arrogant or rude, even if you really just mean to be efficient because you're tired.
It's basically the difference between treating them like a vending machine versus treating them like a person. Exactly. Respect is a universal currency. Communicating politely dictates how warmly you'll be treated. Using smooth phrases signals respect. And when you signal respect, you unlock much better, faster, and just more willing service.
So it's a strategic move, not just a polite one. If I want them to bend over backward for me, I have to initiate the interaction with respect. That makes a lot of sense, especially when you encounter problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Like arriving way too early. You take a red-eye flight, you show up at 9 a.m., but check-in isn't until 3 p.m.
Yes. This is where that magic word possible returns. Asking, is it possible to check in early, frames it as a polite inquiry. And if the answer is no, you deploy the next crucial script. Could you store my luggage for a few hours?
Which almost all hotels will do in a locked room. It is an absolute lifesaver. It frees you up to go grab a coffee without dragging a suitcase across cobblestone streets.
Definitely. And while we're discussing the hotel experience, this is actually the perfect place to introduce another essential pocket word from the source.
Which one?
The word complimentary.
Oh, my absolute favorite word in the English language.
It's a beautiful word. But linguistically, you might ask, why not just ask if something is free?
Yeah, why not?
Because complimentary is the professional language of the hospitality industry. It's a polite, elevated way of saying something is provided at no extra charge. When you ask, is the breakfast complimentary, you're speaking their specific industry language, which again subtly elevates your status as a knowledgeable traveler.
You sound like someone who knows how hotels work.
Exactly.
And speaking of breakfast, the source notes a couple of essential questions you just need to memorize to secure your basic comforts. Things like, what time is breakfast served? And could I have the Wi-Fi password, please? Though, usually they print the Wi-Fi right on the little paper folder they hand you.
True, but securing those basic parameters immediately upon arrival prevents a lot of frustration later.
Totally. But what happens when things go wrong? Like, you get to your room, you drop your bags, and you realize there are no clean towels. Or worse, your room is directly above a booming nightclub, and the walls are literally vibrating.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
The source points out that travelers often feel incredibly shy about calling down to ask for help in those situations, even though they're paying for the room.
People often suffer in silence because they fear confrontation, or maybe they worry about a language misunderstanding. They just don't want to be perceived as the difficult guest.
But by using that polite framing we discussed earlier, we can fix the problem without the confrontation. Right.
Exactly. Instead of calling down and yelling, this room is too loud, you use the collaborative phrasing. Is it possible to move to a quieter room? Or could we get some extra towels, please?
By phrasing it that way, you're inviting the staff to solve a problem with you, rather than accusing them of making a mistake. It diffuses tension instantly.
It absolutely does.
All right, so the hotel is conquered. You are rested. Now it's time to head into the wild. We're moving out of the sanctuary and navigating taxis, transit, and sightseeing. This is where the variables become incredibly unpredictable.
Yeah, you're leaving the structured environments behind. The city itself requires a much more dynamic set of linguistic tools.
I know from painful personal experience that getting into a cab without establishing the ground rules is basically asking to be scammed. You can't just jump in and point at a map. You use a polite phrase like, "Could you take me to the downtown art museum, please?" But the source highlights two specific phrases you must use before the car even moves to protect your wallet.
Establishing the financial mechanics up front is critical. You ask, do you use a meter? Or how much will the ride cost approximately?
Asking, "Do you use a meter?" removes all the ambiguity. Because if you don't ask, and you pull up to the museum, suddenly you're being charged $100 for a 5-minute ride.
Taking that initiative shows the driver that you're an aware, savvy traveler. It creates a boundary that protects you from the most common tourist traps.
And if they ask which route you prefer, and you obviously have no idea, you just hand the navigation over by saying, "Whichever way is fastest, please." Then, when you finally arrive, the drop-off phrase is incredibly useful. "You can drop me off right here."
The phrase drop off is another really critical piece of vocabulary. It's a phrasal verb, and native English speakers rely heavily on phrasal verbs in casual conversation.
Why is that better than just saying, "Stop the car here"?
Well, stop the car sounds like an emergency command.
Oh, like you're about to jump out.
Exactly. Drop off implies a safe, temporary action of bringing someone to a destination and leaving them there. Using "you can drop me off right here" makes you sound instantly fluent and conversational rather than rigid and demanding.
And always end the taxi ride by asking, "Could I get a receipt, please?" Just to track your spending. Okay, so we're out of the cab. We're standing in front of the museum. The source dives into how not to get overwhelmed at busy sightseeing spots.
Clarity is your best tool when navigating crowds.
When you step up to a busy ticket window with a long line behind you, you need to state the number and type of tickets clearly. 2 adult tickets for the museum, please. Or 1 student ticket, please. It speeds everything up.
Right.
And for those of us terrified of accidentally breaking local rules, the source offers a great safety phrase. Are we allowed to take photos in here?
Asking permission rather than begging for forgiveness is always the wiser strategy in a foreign culture. It shows deference to their local rules and saves you the embarrassment of a security guard blowing a whistle at you across a silent gallery.
That is my literal nightmare. I just turn around and go home.
But bypassing the embarrassment brings me to my absolute favorite part of this entire deep dive. The ultimate local secret.
Oh, this is a game changer.
You've done the museum, you're hungry, but you refuse to eat at the overpriced, low-quality tourist trap next door. The source provides a script that acts exactly like a cheat code in a video game. The phrase is, "Where do locals like to eat around here?" The psychological shift occurring when you ask that specific question is really profound. Think about the progression of our journey so far. We started in survival mode at the airport, we moved to comfort mode at the hotel. Now, with this question, you are fully operating in exploration mode.
You aren't just trying to survive the transaction anymore.
Exactly. You're actively seeking cultural connection. And look at how that question affects the person you're speaking to. If you walk up to a museum worker and simply ask, "Where is good food?" they will likely point you to the closest, most generic restaurant, because that's the path of least resistance.
They're stuck in a customer service mindset.
Right. They're just trying to process your request quickly.
They just want to answer the question and get back to work.
But when you ask, "Where do locals like to eat?" you interrupt their internal script. You shift them completely out of customer service and activate a mindset of local pride. You're acknowledging that they possess insider knowledge. You're asking for their personal expertise.
People love being experts.
They do. People inherently love sharing what makes their hometown special. This specific phrasing guarantees a much more authentic recommendation because it changes the nature of the relationship.
You elevate them from being like a human directory to being an ambassador for their city. That is brilliant.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's connect the dots of this entire journey. Whether you're heading out on a vital, high-stakes business trip to Tokyo or planning a dream summer vacation to Rome, preparing for the trip isn't just about packing clothes. Prepping these specific conversational scripts is like downloading a software update for your brain.
It fundamentally removes the exhausting barrier of language anxiety. It frees up your cognitive resources.
Which we all need more of.
Exactly. When you aren't agonizing over how to construct a grammatically perfect sentence just to get a clean towel, or panicking at the border control desk, you actually have the mental energy to appreciate the architecture, taste the food, and engage with the culture around you.
It allows you to step out of your own head. You don't have to carry that 50-pound mental suitcase of anxiety anymore. You just deploy the script, and suddenly you're actually present, enjoying the journey.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Building directly on that idea of interacting with locals, try flipping the script and thinking about the inverse situation.
Oh, I love looking at it from the other side.
Imagine you're the local in your own hometown. A foreign traveler approaches you on the street. If they walked up, looked super stressed, and just demanded, "Where is food?" you might feel a bit defensive.
Totally.
You would probably just point to the nearest fast food chain to quickly end the awkward interaction.
Honestly, yeah. If someone barks at me, I'm just going to point at the Golden Arches and walk away.
But imagine if that same traveler approached you using the polite, clear scripts we've discussed today. If they smiled and asked, "Excuse me, are there any good local restaurants around here? Where do locals like to eat?" Think about how your posture would change. How eager would you be to help them?
It changes everything. I'd give them a full, detailed itinerary. I'd tell them to go to my favorite taco truck on 5th Street, tell them exactly what to order, warn them about this spicy salsa. I mean, I'd want them to love my city as much as I do.
Exactly. Preparing for a trip isn't just about navigating a foreign world mechanically. It's about recognizing how universal the human desire for polite, clear connection really is. We all respond to respect. When you approach the world with that kind of linguistic consideration, the world opens up to you in ways a guidebook never could.
It's not just about knowing the vocabulary, it's about mastering the connection. So as you prepare for your next adventure, pack these phrases in your mental pocket. Drop that 50-pound mental suitcase of anxiety at the door. Use these tools to smooth out your interactions, and watch how quickly the world opens up to you. Safe travels, everyone.
That's the end of today's English conversation. Practice speaking every day to improve your English. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like this video. We'll see you in the next English conversation. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.